All right, let's tackle a huge question today. Where does China actually begin? I'm not talking about the legends, but the real, tangible history. We're going to go on a quest, you and me, to find the very first physical proof of one of the world's oldest, most enduring civilizations.
I mean, think about it. How do you even find the beginning of a story that's 4,000 years old, right? Do you start with the epic myths, the legendary emperors, or do you start with something you can actually hold in your hands? So on the one hand, you've got these incredible foundational legends, tales of the Shah dynasty, heroes taming massive floods, amazing stories. But for historians and archaeologists, stories aren't enough. They need cold, hard evidence. Stuff they can literally dig out of the ground, like intricate bronze vessels and, well, bones. And that's why our search doesn't begin in some dusty library. Nope, it starts right in the soil of the Yellow River Valley. And we're looking for two key clues that really unlock the whole mystery: bronze and bone. Okay, first up, the power of bronze. Our first clue is a technology that completely reshaped society. And I mean, this wasn't just a simple upgrade from using stone tools. The arrival of bronze, it literally forged an entirely new era of power and control.
And in ancient China, this was the absolute truth. Bronze meant power, plain and simple. It wasn't just for making better pots and pans. To have bronze, and even more importantly, to control how it was made, that was everything. That was absolute authority.
So, how did that power actually play out? Well, first, it was about ritual. I mean, just look at these incredible, intricate vessels. These weren't for your Tuesday night dinner. No way. These were sacred tools used to make offerings to the ancestors. And by controlling these rituals, the elite controlled the hotline, the main connection between the living and the spirit world. That's how you proved you were meant to be in charge.
And of course, that power extended right onto the battlefield. Bronze meant total military dominance. We're talking spearheads, daggers, helmets, all way, way deadlier than anything made of stone. And the bronze fittings for chariots? Whoa, that was basically the ancient world's version of a tank squadron. It gave the Shang rulers this terrifying, decisive edge.
Finally, the last piece of the puzzle: control. The know-how to actually mine, mix, and cast bronze was a top state secret. It was a complete monopoly held by the ruling class. So if you owned one of these bronze pieces, it didn't just mean you were rich. It meant you were in. You were part of the power structure, period.
Okay, so bronze shows us where their physical power came from, their muscle. But what was going on inside their heads? What were they worried about? What did they hope for? To get inside their minds, we have to turn to our second, and maybe even more mysterious clue: messages in bone.
All right, what you're looking at here are oracle bones. And let me tell you, these are one of the most incredible finds in all of archaeology. Seriously. We're talking about thousands upon thousands of ox shoulder blades and turtle shells. And what were they for? They were a direct line, a kind of spiritual hotline between the Shang kings and their gods and ancestors.
And this wasn't just random guesswork, not at all. It was a very specific process. First, the king would ask a question. Then, a diviner would take a hot poker and press it into a little hollow carved into the bone. The heat would make the bone crack, and those cracks? That was the answer from the ancestors. But here's the absolute key, the game changer for historians. They often carve the original question, and sometimes even the outcome, right onto the bone itself.
And the questions weren't always these huge, epic things about battles and the fate of the kingdom. Some of them were so human, so relatable. Here's a real question, translated from an actual oracle bone. Will it rain tomorrow? Just think about that. That one simple question tells you everything about a king's very real worries, about the harvest, about whether his people would have enough to eat. So you see, these bones are so much more than just fortune-telling tools. They're basically China's first archives. I love this analogy. Think of them like ancient hard drives, made of bone. They recorded everything, from huge military campaigns and royal births, all the way down to the king's toothaches. They give us this completely unfiltered window right into the minds of the people running this kingdom.
All right, time to synthesize our clues. We've got the raw physical power of bronze, and we've got the spiritual authority coming from the bones. So let's put these two pieces of the puzzle together and see how they forged the very first kingdom in Chinese history that we can actually prove existed.
Now, this timeline is super important to understand. You see that earlier Xia dynasty? For now, it's still considered legendary, because we just don't have the slam-dunk archaeological proof. But the Shang? That's a whole different story. We have their stuff. We've found their bronze in their tombs, and we've literally read their writing on their oracle bones. The Shang dynasty is the moment Chinese history steps out of the mist of legend and into the clear light of historical fact.
And this really gets to the heart of how they held on to power. The Shang state was basically built on two massive pillars. On one side, you have the bronze vessels, representing their power here on Earth, military might, political control. And on the other side, you have the oracle bones, representing their authority over the spirit world. It was a direct divine mandate that said, we are the ones chosen to rule.
And it was this powerful 1-2 punch that made the Shang so incredibly successful. See, it wasn't enough to just be the strongest guy on the block. You also had to be the one who could talk to the ancestors. Physical might and spiritual right. Put them together, and you've created a political structure that was more stable and long-lasting than anything that had come before.
Now, of course, the Shang dynasty eventually fell. All dynasties do. But the things they came up with, their ideas, they didn't disappear, not at all. Instead, they created this incredible, enduring blueprint for how to govern, for religion, for culture, that would basically define China for the next 3,000 years.
Just think about their legacy for a second. That whole idea of a single family ruling and passing power down from father to son, generation after generation, that's the Shang model. The concept of the emperor as the son of heaven, the one guy who connects humanity to the cosmos, the roots of that idea are right there, with the king reading cracks on a bone. And maybe the most amazing part? Those characters they scratched onto the bones, they are the direct ancestors of the Chinese writing system used today. Incredible.
So when you really look at it, the story of the Shang is so much more than just ancient history. The patterns of power they set up, that relationship between the ruler and the divine, and even the act of writing itself. All of this was pioneered way back then, and it would just echo down through the millennia, through every single dynasty that came after.
Which kind of leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. The Shang built their entire world on two things: the very visible, very real power of bronze, and the invisible, spiritual authority they got from bone. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What are the invisible foundations, the old tech, the forgotten ideas that our world today is built on, that we don't even see anymore?